mindset on. LEQ. Got my mindset on. LEQ. My mindset on. LEQ. It's gonna take time. Whole lot of precious time. It's gonna take patience and time. To do it, 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 to do it right.
Welcome back, young scholars. This is the third and final video on the long essay question. In the last video, we learned about writing body paragraphs for the LEQ essay. And a quick learning check. What are the three components of a body paragraph? You should be saying over and over in your mind: topic sentence, evidence, analysis, topic sentence, evidence, analysis. In this video, we'll be focusing on some of the other components, including contextualization. You're going to start your introductory paragraph, your first paragraph, with contextualization. So in your introductory paragraph, you're going to have both contextualization and your thesis. Contextualization is worth 1 point on the LEQ rubric. Contextualization is the immediate and essential background to the story that you are going to tell in your essay. It is information that is useful to the reader to get the reader up to speed so that they can better understand the historical argument that you are trying to set forth in your essay. The critical thing to make note of here, it is the things that are most immediate and essential in terms of the background of the story. Now, in order to get to that immediate essential background, sometimes you also have to start out a little bit more at the macro zoomed out level and eventually sort of narrow down and zoom in to the thing that is most immediate and essential. And it's okay to do that. It's okay to start broad as you're describing the context to the essay you're about to write, but just don't forget to narrow your focus with some specific supporting detail. Oftentimes that is how students fail. They think they're doing contextualization correctly, but really they're just sort of staying at that 30,000 foot level and not building down into something that provides more specific supporting detail. But here's how I want to practice contextualization. I have never seen a Marvel movie before because I have no life. I know that's sad. I want to see the Avengers Endgame. I wanted to see this movie when it came out. I just haven't had the time. I want to check it out on Disney Plus, but I am worried that I won't understand at all what is happening in Avengers Endgame because I have not seen any of the previous Marvel Avengers movies that can help me understand what's going to happen in that movie. So I need you to provide me with the context so that when I start watching Avengers Endgame, I will be able to understand it without any problems. As you think about how you would structure that context, I want you to, again, start out at that 30,000 foot level, but eventually I want you to narrow in to the things that are the most immediate and essential background so that when I pick up with Avengers Endgame, that the story makes sense. Again, I've never seen these movies, but I've had students explain this to me. They start by describing who are these Avengers, what is their purpose, who is this guy named Thanos, what is he trying to do in accumulating all of these super powerful stones, which I don't quite understand. The thing, again, that's the most immediate and essential background, I think, is the stuff that comes out of the Avengers Infinity War movie, which is the third movie in the sequence. Because if I'm going into the fourth movie, the very first scene in the fourth movie will be what we left off with in the third movie. So the fact that Thanos has just obliterated half of the people on Earth, pretty important immediate essential background to understanding what's going to happen in the Avengers Endgame movie. Did you see how we started out broad, but eventually we focused in on the thing that was most immediate and essential to understanding the narrative that we were going to pick up once we got into that Avengers Endgame movie? Contextualization should be at least 3 sentences. That's really where you should set your bar. It's possible that you can still get the point and write 2 super duper uber quality sentences, but really 3 sentences is really the low bar for what you're going to have to do in order to successfully earn this point for contextualization. Contextualization should ideally transition into your thesis. And if you're doing this the way that we described, where you're sort of starting out at the 30,000 foot level and eventually narrowing your focus down into the things that are most immediately relevant to understanding the essay that you're about to write, so the transition from your contextualization to your thesis should flow naturally. The trick really goes back to the first step in analyzing and breaking down the prompt. So as you're analyzing that prompt, pay close attention to the time period, especially the beginning date for the essay that you're given, and also the theme or themes that you're asked to focus on. So for instance, if the prompt asks about political state building stuff in period 2, you want to try and write what you know about political state building stuff in period 1. And if it kind of narrows you down even more specifically to a particular region, you want to just focus on what's happening in that region. So again, this is the immediate essential background to the story of the essay that you're trying to write. Now it's your turn, and let's practice this first part together where we're analyzing and breaking down the prompt. So as I was looking at this prompt, if I really wanted to focus in on what I needed to know to complete contextualization, I probably would want to be focusing in on this particular date, the beginning time frame. And then what you want to do is you want to ask yourself, all right, do I know anything about just the century immediately preceding 1200 CE? So from 1100 to 1200, is there something I could talk about in that time period, because that's the most immediate and essential information? And do I know anything related to the biological, commercial, and or cultural exchanges that took place in the Silk Road, the Indian Ocean network? I'm kind of struggling coming up with something specific. So it's okay if you take a little spin on it and say, well, maybe I don't know much about biological, commercial, and cultural exchanges, but I can talk more generally about the development and transformation of the Silk Road and Indian Ocean network pre-1200, or maybe I could talk a little bit about the political states and the impact that the rise and fall of various states that I know about from that time period, from 1100 to 1200 CE, how that might have impacted the development of the Silk Road and the Indian Ocean sea lanes. That is the information that is most immediate and essential for the reader to know as they're beginning to read your essay.
And in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen.
So finally, there is the question of the conclusion paragraph. When we're talking about good writing, is it important to have a concluding paragraph in an argumentative essay? Absolutely. The problem is that when you're writing a 40-minute timed essay on the AP test, good writing sometimes goes out the window because you really are focusing in on those points. Now, there is no specific point that is attached to the concluding paragraph, but there are some ways potentially to earn some points. First, let me tell you about one of my favorite quotes. It's from Mark Twain. History does not repeat itself, but it often rhymes. What does Twain mean by that? Well, there's no two events in history that will ever be the exact same, but there are echoes and themes that are continuous throughout history and that resurface over time, and that's why we study and learn from history. And so in your concluding paragraph, one possible way to score the unicorn point for that complex understanding is to make a connection, or sometimes it's referred to as an extension, between your argument that you're making, which is situated in a particular historical moment, and another related moment in history, including present day. So a lot of students are successful in making a connection between the argument that they're making and how they see relevant echoes of that same argument today. One way to force yourself to do this, or sort of a template for this, is to start out with the statement "in the same way" and then restate your argument in the same way that the Indian Ocean sea lanes and the Silk Road were whatever it is. And then you extend your argument by explaining how it might apply to something similar today, or something similar in another region, in another time in history. It cannot be just sort of a surface level comparison. You have to go deep in order to really earn this unicorn point. And remember, less than 1% of students nationwide earn it. So is it really worth taking a stab at it? Nah, maybe not. Finally, another way to potentially score a point in the concluding paragraph is by restating your thesis, but you only have to do this if it's necessary. If you're happy with your thesis, don't think, oh, I just have to rewrite it word for word. That will not earn you the point. If you didn't get the point when the grader read through it the first time, rewriting it word for word is not going to get you the point the second time. The thing that you can do, though, is you can maybe add some more specificity or detail to your claim. You can try and make your claims a little bit more clear. Those sorts of things, it's maybe worth doing, because that can be a way to earn that thesis point. So the way to do this, in conclusion, restate your thesis, but don't just write it the exact same way. Restate it a little bit more clearly, and that could potentially earn you a point. So as you guys are beginning to think about battling the LEQ, I want to leave you with this thought.
Test your mind. Test your mind. Test your mind. Test your mind. LEQ.
You guys can do this. You're going to be tested, but you can make these comparisons between the Silk Road and the Indian Ocean sea lanes, or, for instance, the Silk Road and the Trans-Saharan Network, or the Indian Ocean Network and the Trans-Saharan Network. That is what you're going to be asked potentially to do on the AP test. College Board frequently likes to make sure that you understand these really important trans-regional networks and how they contributed to the development of human societies across Afro-Eurasia.
Round 1. Finish him.
Finish your essay. I believe in you. You can do this. If you need help, do not hesitate. This is really challenging stuff. Do not hesitate to reach out and ask for help from your teacher. Good luck on your LEQ, and thanks for watching.